Hi, this is Miss Litton, and this is my wonderful Period 2 Honors Bio class. Say hi.
Hi.
And this is our final chapter of the year. And this is going to focus on biodiversity. And when we go to your notes at the very beginning of it, if we just look through the notes, the first part of it talks about resources that humans use. Now, don't even look at the notes. Come back to me again. Let's just think things that we need. What are some things you need all the time?
Food.
Food. Water. You need
Oxygen.
what?
Shelter.
Oxygen, sure. Shelter, but your shelter, so it's somewhere on land, right?
Oh, land.
So yeah, food, water, land. What do we need to make our cars go? Gas. So we need, and make our rooms light up, we need some form of energy. And then the thing probably you don't think about so much is that you need minerals. When most of us think about minerals, we think about jewelry, which is fine. We do need jewelry. I have no problem with that. But things like that we harvest, like the metals that are in this room, the metals that build your car, that are part of batteries, right? Those are things that have to be harvested from the earth. In the process of doing all those things, could we ever create waste or pollution? Yes. So we have certain things that we need from this earth to meet. And some of those are renewable resources, and some of those are non-renewable resources. Slate, before we even look at a note, what's the difference between renewable and non-renewable? Slate, go ahead.
Renewable basically means like it's like sunlight, and like it can replenish itself as fast as you can take it to the backup. And non-renewable is like fossil fuels.
Okay, so come back to me. What's the issue with non-renewable resources?
They run out.
They run out. Okay, little tip. It's called fossil fuels. Okay, the very fact that it has the word fossil in it tells me fossils is a thing that can run out, right? So if we're highly dependent upon fossil fuels and then we don't have them anymore, what are we going to do? What is another source of fuel we could use?
Nuclear.
Okay, nuclear, but two, that could also run out. Solar, what are some other things? Wind, right? So those water, so we need to talk about that. And water, let's talk about that. We do need water. And water is technically a renewable resource, but can we renew it fast enough for the needs we have? No. So we have to make those considerations. So I'm not saying that we don't need things. We do need things, but we need to think about where is our source? How do we meet those needs? And the second thing we're going to talk about is, in the process of meeting our needs, do we ever destroy other living organisms? Yes, we do. Okay? So we need places to live, so we build homes. If we build our homes there, then other organisms can't live there. They would suffer habitat loss. If they have habitat loss, they have less places to live, so what's going to happen to their numbers?
They will
They'll go down. Okay? So those are things that can decrease what's called biodiversity. And so we'll talk about the main causes of extinction, which decreases biodiversity. Okay, so first we'll talk about our resources, then we'll talk about things that cause extinctions. The third thing is, why do we even care if we lose biodiversity? What is the importance of biodiversity? And we'll talk about it selfishly and obviously, and then some ones that are not so obvious. Okay, so that'll be our third thing we're going to talk about. And then, if we agree that biodiversity is important, then our last thing to talk about is, well, then what are we going to do about it? And the obvious thing is, right, what are we going to do about it? We're going to try to fix those habitats, right? We're going to try to restore habitats we've broken and preserve the ones we have, right? We're preserving or restoring in order to maintain biodiversity. And that is this whole end of the chapter. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about are resources. So resources on your notes. Anything from the biotic or abiotic environment that helps humans meet our needs. Okay, so we have needs, we need things. So it's anything from the biotic or abiotic environment. Okay, two types of resources. Renewable resources, not limited in supply. The most obvious one is, the big yellow thing is the sun. Okay, it's always shining. If it stops shining, we're dead anyway, right? So if we can use something to harvest that energy to power up our energy needs, that would be important. Think about it. Cars, right? We burn gas. I burn gas. Okay. Now, why didn't I buy a hybrid?
They're expensive.
It's too expensive. Okay? So somehow I've got to make it so using renewable resources is more affordable. My last 2 cars, I don't remember if it was a third car, I looked at the hybrids every time, and I liked the idea of it, right? I just couldn't afford it. It was another $10,000 or $15,000 for me to get the hybrid. You know, my son's like, Mom, you got to get the Tesla. Okay, sure. Mommy's a teacher. Okay, but when you look at those, I'm thinking $10,000 to $15,000 more dollars I want to invest in my income to buy this car, or I can buy $10,000 to $15,000 more gas. If I got a gas card where somebody said we have $15,000 of gas credits, okay, I'm not going to turn that down. So until this becomes more affordable, I'm not going to do it. One way to combat that right now, using a renewable resource for electricity, is to have what on top of your house?
Solar panels.
But they cost money. So the way they're offsetting that is how? Yeah, you can lease it. You can take the extra energy you make that your house doesn't use and sell it back to the electric companies, right? If you can make it affordable, like we're getting all those solar panels in here to go over the parking lot, right? So first of all, by putting them in now, we got a big break in the cost of it. And then you do a cost value, and you think, well, you know, it's going to cost us money to make payments on them for the next 5 years, but after that, bank, you know, then it's going to pay us back. So that's somehow got to be addressed, because these Oh, I skipped the first one. Sorry. Non-renewable resources. Blue, tell them what's the irony of this little cartoon on non-renewable. Go ahead.
Because it's the world, like, it's running low on resources. It's just like the gas.
I think I left my iPod at home, and I'm honestly really interested.
So, if it's non-renewable, there's no making more of it. And every time we use it, there's always going to be what? Less and less and less and less, right? And this is stuff like land. They're not making any more land unless you live in Dubai, okay? Right? Making islands, right? Is it Dubai? Yeah. Not making any more land. That's all there is. Fossil fuels. There's the word fossil in there. Okay, hopefully I didn't lose anything. I'm not really sure when I stopped here. But anyway, fossil fuels, we're running out of those, and also minerals. So on your notes, on your non-renewable, limited, as in land, fossil fuels, and minerals. Renewable, not limited. Not limited. Solar energy, certain plant and animal species, etc. Okay, pollution. Could dark-shirted one, that's going to be hard for some of you, explain what is pollution? Go ahead.
Pollution is like there we go. You know what? I know.
So I think this is the word you're missing right here.
Yeah.
Right? Add that into your notes. All right. Light-shirted one. Here you go, light-shirted one.
Oh dear God, that was
With the changes in conditions on Earth, faster than new traits can evolve to cope with the conditions.
I want to be there. Right there. See this? I want to be there.
Those species that evolve will not have the natural resources.
Okay? So, as a species, we need land, but so do other organisms. We need water, so do other organisms. We need nutrients, but so do other organisms, right? And the thing is, because of technology, we can change it faster than they can adapt, which then is going to cause extinctions, which will do what to biodiversity? Decrease it. All right. So let's look at the first one, okay? Oh, no. Let's look at the first one, okay? The first one about land. So on land, let's talk about erosion. How would you like to have these homes?
Okay, God.
Bad, okay?
That's
So,
scary.
it is scary.
When you
Have you
literally live
ever,
life on the
though,
edge.
have you ever driven around where you've seen homes that are right up next to cliffs or areas like that? And in Camarillo, where I live, some homes are right on the edge, and you can see near the river, like up above, like it's just the soil's going away, and like they had a gazebo there, now they don't have a gazebo there, and you're like, scary. On beaches, 70% of the world's beaches are eroding. 70% of the world's beaches are eroding. Here's another one, okay, showing you that erosion.
That's scary.
Those are their vacation homes. I don't feel bad. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm gonna show you several maps today, and you're gonna ping pong back and forth. Dark shirted one. Describe what you see. What kind of conclusions can you support from this map? Go ahead.
It looks, yeah, it looks like the East Coast is getting really eroded, which I can actually because I've seen. And well, the West Coast is doing better, but it's still
Where do you see the most erosion?
East Coast.
Why do you think that is?
Can I guess because the ocean?
Well, there's ocean on both sides.
The currents, right?
Currents. What else?
The hurricanes.
Straight up hurricanes. Storms.
Straight up hurricanes.
Straight up hurricanes. Yeah. So storms to these areas are going to erode that. Now, is that caused by man? No. Unless we build something on it which doesn't allow it to do its natural cycling process, right? Unless we're doing something to inhibit the natural restoration of those areas. All right. Also, pollution of our waterways. So on coastal pollution, toxic substances placed in rivers eventually get to the coast, and think about oil spills. Next, we have the tendency, okay, to take areas that are adjacent to deserts and make them deserts. And that's called desertification. Desertification is not where you get an extra cupcake, okay? Semi-arid areas that are adjacent to a desert, we oftentimes turn them into deserts. And what a reason for that, let's go on your notes. Semi-arid land is defined as adjacent to a desert. Desertification is the conversion of semi-arid land to desert-like conditions. It often begins with overgrazing. Why would overgrazing contribute to desertification? Yeah.
Because like if you have sheep that's eating all the grass and then you don't let it replace itself, then it's just going to go away.
Right, and no grass, lose soil, you know, windstorm comes, removes the topsoil, things can't grow, can't hang on to water, okay, and then that causes problems. I need light-shirted one, explain this map right here. Go ahead, light-shirted one, what do you see there?
So there's not very many natural deserts compared to the amount of areas that are at risk of being desertified. In America, it's more towards Mexico where it's desertificated. And Africa, it's like all over the place.
There's Australia. Look at Australia. The entire thing is just
Australia's like a crazy.
Now,
Like
where has desertification occurred? What color?
red.
Yeah, that reddish orange color, right? The darker color. And if it's desertification, who did it? We did it. Okay, we did it. Okay? Now, what does that do to that habitat of the organisms? If they lived in a semi-arid area, they could survive there, right? But now we've turned it into a desert. We've changed the habitat. We've changed what organisms can survive. If we change the habitat, we decrease what? Population of those species. We're decreasing overall biodiversity. Exactly. All right? And could I have the dark-shirted one explain this right here? Go ahead.
That's depressing.
There's deforestation of the rainforest. It's like everybody has to make it a lot of desert. It's really depressing.
And dark-shirted one, this is your map. Go ahead.
Tropical forests are away, like farther away from the pole rather than the equator, and the tropical forests are closer to the equator, and it shows how much greater the area of tropical.
What kind of claim could you make about our forests?
They're going away.
Getting smaller. Are there animals that live in those forests?
Indeed.
Yes. Okay. All right. So on your tropical rainforest, deforestation is the removal of trees. Deforestation can lead to loss of biodiversity. And then they can be subject to desertification. And they can be subject to desertification.
It's depressing.
All right, now, so we've talked about land. We all need land. Second thing is we all need what? Water. Okay. So we have generally abundant water until we went through the what? Drought. Okay. Then were you supposed to water your grass anymore?
Nope.
No. Okay. So that got decreased. But it didn't used to be a problem. You could see water all over the sidewalks, just wasted, right? That was fresh drinking water. And when we say in our homes currently, if you said mom or dad, grandma, whatever, we're out of water. What does that mean if you tell your parents we're out of water?
We gotta grow water bottles.
No more what?
Water bottles.
Water bottles that are already pre-filled, right? But other areas, when they say mom, dad, we're out of water, they mean we are out of water. Okay? They don't have water. You always have tap water. It's not like you go, oh, we have no more water. Or let's bottle some and keep it. Let's go to grandma's and bottle some water so we have water for the next couple of days. Okay, that's never an issue for you. Most of you have never lived in an environment where you had to worry about water. Most of us go, oh gosh, I've really got to get my water in today. I know I'm supposed to drink this many bottles, you know. I know, I have a hard time doing that. I really do. But it's not because you don't have enough water to drink. It's because you don't want to bother to drink that much water, right? Okay. Other places, they're like, can I have a cup of water for today? Would that be a possibility? Okay. So, of course, I have a map for you, and now it's light-shirted one, yeah? Light-shirted one. This map is yours. I know it's tiny. Let me tell you, the bluer colors, not as bad. When you get to red, really bad. If you read the title of this graph, go ahead.
Russia's doing pretty well. Wait, what's that little country right there? Is that Bulgaria, Romania? What is that? We're doing pretty well. Why does Spain, Italy, and Germany have anything? Why are there no down?
Okay. So when you look at this, if you look at these darker colors, 0 to 6% don't have access to water. Chances are they didn't pay their bill and their water got turned off. Okay, that could be. But most people here, you have access to some kind of water. 7 to 17, 18, 30. But look at the orange. Look at the orange places, the light orange. 49 to 63%. So over half don't have access regularly to drinking water. And then when you get in the dark orange, it's 64 to 87%. Okay, these are countries. Okay, and they don't have access to fresh drinking water. So that would be a problem. Remember, I've told you about this, right? We've talked about this. How much of our water is fresh water? 3%. Most of that fresh water that we do have is caught up in glaciers. The drinking water we do have, we spend on farm animals and crops, like 70% of it, of the drinking water we do have. If you want to make some money, you invest in water production, okay? Because we will run out of access to enough water. That is something that research is going into, desalinization and other things like that, okay? Because you cannot live without water, okay? And it has to be affordable to generate in some sort of process. So in your drinking water, many people do not have easy access to drinking water. Worldwide, 70% of fresh water is used to irrigate crops. Our sources for water are rivers and lakes. And if you're trying, here's a graph of what you just saw, availability of fresh water. Okay. So one thing that could be done is to use dams so that you can build up that water. But that can lead to problems as well, because because I make blue lines. It can lead to problems as well because you can have sediment build up behind that dam. So on dams may not work in the long run because of the buildup of sediment. Then another thing you could do is there are sources for water underground, right? Aquifers. Remember when you learned about this in foundations?
Oh, my word.
And they're depleting the aquifers, and we don't know how, here in California, we don't know how long those aquifers will last. And then keep in mind, if you have a water table right here, and you remove that water, it can create a space, right? It might get filled in with salt water, and that's saltwater intrusion. Or it might not get filled with anything, and there's nothing to support the layers above it, so then that can cause a sinkhole, okay? Where all of a sudden there's nothing supporting that layer and everything is falling, like a home falling through. And that's happened in Florida, in different areas like that, where whole homes, and then people are like dead. They're, you know, I mean, it's like gone, okay? So on aquifers, water is getting removed at a rate that can't be sustained, hence sinkholes and saltwater intrusion. Okay, today I want you to log in as something that might decrease biodiversity. Something that might decrease biodiversity.
Humans. Me.
Oh, sorry, I didn't start.
Trump.
I didn't say that.
I agree with that.
Eating too many Skittles.
Oh, wait, now I know.
It's like the Jeep that goes on the... I don't get the first one either, don't worry about it. Filling in wetlands. Where are the wetlands? What are wetlands? I'm Googling this.
I can see that.
Remind me next time you do some questions to this. Almost done?
The first one is confusing. I was right, I swear to God. I changed it at the last second.
This one was just super obvious. I'm surprised. Did you think it was a trick question?
I changed it like literally 3 seconds before.
Yeah. So yeah, dune buggies. No, dune buggies want to erode the sand. Yeah, importing sand would be the greatest way not to cause beach erosion, right? Because you're refilling what gets removed. Yes.
But aren't you taking sand from another beach?
Well, it depends on where you're getting it. Yeah, if you're taking it from another beach, then yes, it would cause erosion of that one. But the assumption is you're not. Okay, let's see here. Good, most of you got that one. All right. Yeah, that first question is kind of tricksy. Okay, so the first thing we talked about, okay, on human resources, we all have to have land, we all have to have water, we all have to have food. So let's talk about our sources of food, okay? Our food generally comes from 3 areas. We either grow crops, right? Or we have, we're raising animals, livestock to eat, or chicken or whatever. Or we're fishing. Now, you may not be doing any of those, but there are people doing this for you, right? So this is an area of land that is set aside for this crop. This is an area of land that is set aside to grow chickens or sheep or whatever it is you're eating, or cows. Fishing is different. I want you to think about this. When you eat cow, okay, or a chicken, it's not like you go, oh, my family, we just hunted last night. A cow went through our yard. We hunted it. And we ate that cow. You know, sorry, I couldn't come to school today, Miss Litton. We're gutting the cow. None of us do that, right? But, and when you have salad, it's not like, oh, my family was foraging last night. We didn't have time to do our homework because we were foraging for lettuce up in the high mountains. Okay? None of you do that. It's grown in a field. But most of the fish you eat is wild caught. Most of the fish and shrimp, they're not doing enough aquaculture in those fish farms, or you're like, oh, I don't want that. It came from a fish farm. Ew, I want it wild. But the problem is we have all this ocean, and that's the one thing of our food source. We're trying to catch every wild species out there to eat, like salmon, and then as a result, we're going to what of them? Deplete them. Okay, we're depleting them. We need to develop aquaculture. We need to have, just like you farm for lettuce and tomatoes and cucumbers and carrots, you're not out there finding the wild, mushrooms, because they'll probably kill you. Okay, you're not doing that. You are growing them up. And if we want to eat fish and shrimp and oysters, we need to be growing those and harvesting them just like we do others, instead of depleting our natural supplies. Because that's, overfishing is becoming a real problem. Okay, so let's start with the crops and the issue with crops. There are lots of issues surrounding that. We spray a lot of what? Pesticides. Those pesticides are not only falling on the plants, they're getting in the soil. Then down comes the rain and washes the spider out. And then, that was what you're thinking, right?
Yeah.
Up comes the sun and dries up all the rain, and the itsy bitsy spider. I got it. Okay. So, we're putting those would be, look, you're all going, how does the spider go? Again, I just did it and it took a second. Go thumb to pointer, thumb to pointer.
Oh!
Now we got it. Your spider's climbing. Okay, come back to me. These are important things to review. So we have issues with what we spray, and a lot of you will buy organic. There is no law or rule about organic. Does organic just mean I'm willing to take the bruised fruit and some that has little holes in it? Because most of us don't do that. When I go to the grocery store, I don't, go, I'll buy the bruised apples, the one that has something growing on it. No, I'm looking just like the rest of you. I don't want this, that's gross. I want this one. We look for the best. I don't want anything wrong with that apple because I'm going to wash it and eat it, and I don't want that bruisey part. Okay? So we all do that, but we're unwilling to have imperfect fruit, so a lot of input is done in order to get our fruit all perfect. Do you think it's different in different countries? Yeah, it's like, yay, I got an apple. I get to eat today. Can I have a cup of water to go with that? No, but we are like, that's got like one little tiny dent on it? No. Okay? Or you look about how much you throw away. I was cutting up a watermelon last night. Those are tricksy. I've watched a few YouTube videos. I'm going to tell you, my ultimate way of cutting them is I cut them in half and then I put them face down, or no, face up, like I'm looking at the watermelon, and then I kind of carve off the sides, and then I flip it around and I carve. But I don't get all of the fruit. And I'm like, we're not going to eat all this watermelon anyway. I'm not that good. We throw it away. You look at how much food you throw away. Every time when I come home from the grocery store, I'm like, right? Does that happen in your house? Throw it away, throw it away. That's the waste that we have, because we have enough money that we can go out and buy that. You have cans of fruit and vegetables that you bring in for can drives that there's no way in hell you were going to eat that. That's an old can. No, thank you. I don't like those beans anyway. So we pack it up and donate it. It's it's not, for most of us, it's not a problem. Has anybody ever lived in New York or on the East Coast? we come from big, you've got a huge old Costco, right? So when we buy toilet paper, I have Amazon deliver toilet paper for me. You know, I don't even go and buy it, okay? And paper towels and my detergent, it all comes in a box, right? So now I've got to unpack the box, and I should put the box in the recycling, right? My Amazon Prime account is hideous. I pay it off every month, but I'm so wasteful, right? I am so wasteful. That's the kind of society we live in, and we throw things away. And I'm contributing to the need to make more boxes, which is more paper, which is more what? Trees. Exactly. Okay, but it's not cost efficient for Amazon to take those boxes back. So they're just making billions of boxes every day to ship stuff out, and then it's up to the rest of us to recycle those. Do you think everybody recycles? No, because you know when your recycling is full, then you just throw it in the trash. Do it all the time, right? Because it's not cost efficient. Okay? When we farm, almost everything to do with farming requires fuel and a machine. Think about it. If you're going to farm something, you first have to get the land ready. That requires a machine and fuel. Okay, now the land's ready. What are you going to do? Plant the seeds. It requires a machine and fuel. What kind of fuel? Fossil fuel. Yeah. Then you need to water. So you've got to move the pipes around to do the watering or set up a system. Again, machine and fuel. Then you've got to harvest it, machine and fuel. Then you've got to put it in some sort of vehicle to take it to a place where they'll process it, machine and fuel. Then they have to process it by making plastics to surround the food, machine and fuel. Then they've got to put it to ship it somewhere, machine and fuel. Bring it to that place, machine and fuel. Okay? So when you have that, my little tomatoes that I like to buy, I don't know if you see those, it's like the little yellow cup on the bottom and then it's clear up at the top. Those are the best ones, right? And so, and you take the little plastic off the top, you can pour some out, rinse them, put them in my salad, right? It would be better for the environment if I would go to my local what? Farmer's market with my reusable bag, right? Buy them, stop contributing to the plastics. We don't do that very often. In some areas like Vegas, do they have farmer's market? Can they grow local fruits and vegetables? No. And when I go to the farmer's market, I always intend, I'm going to go to the farmer's market. I'm going to go to the farmer's market, have my little bags, be all natural. No bag for me. Put it in here. Okay, I'll just stack up all my fruit in there. Oh, it's getting squished. I don't like it. But now I can't get my almond milk. Or I can't get those little crackers I like to eat, those all the time, whatever they are. Little packaged ones, the yellow ones. It sounds like Velveeta. It's not. Yeah. I eat those like every day. At least 2 packages of them. And they're like high protein. I love those things. The peanut butter ones.
And your almond milk.
Yeah, I could. But you see what I'm saying? It's not economical. So I contribute to the fossil fuel and this right here. This right here, when you over irrigate crops, that becomes a problem. And that can actually ultimately lead when we have soil loss. And here's a map for you, dark shirted one. Here's your map. Go ahead.
Well, the entire world is, look at this, it's everything, it's gone. Well, we have degraded soil.
Do me a favor.
Figures like Canada would have stable soil.
Do me a favor. Stable soil is light yellow. Just try to find the stable soil.
Russia. Canada and Russia.
I mean, when you look across here, it's like yowza. Okay, so on your notes, go to where it says food. Our food primarily comes from growing crops, animals, and fishing. Harmful practices: planting only a few genetic varieties, heavy use of fertilizers, pesticides and herbicides, over irrigation and excessive fuel consumption. Soil loss at an alarming rate in the United States, then this can lead to salinization. Yep, increased salts due to evaporation of excess irrigation water. 25 to 35% of U.S. croplands are in the possibility of salinization. Okay, so now, so let's make things better. Let's try to make things better, and that was the Green Revolution. In the Green Revolution, what was done is they got higher yield plants. But the reason why they got that is huge investment of nutrients and fertilizers into that soil in order to get that. But that did get a higher yield in the crops to feed more people. Now, the next green revolution there might be through genetic engineering. But there's fears associated with that as well, right? What are people concerned about? GMOs, genetically modified organisms. How might that impact me that I don't know about yet? Okay, so, but those are two areas that maybe if you could genetically modify the corn plants so that they generated their own pesticides, so you didn't have to spray pesticides, then we'd have less pesticides in our systems, as a result of that. So underneath green revolutions, first are hybrid plants called high responders, which are high yield plants but require high levels of fertilizer, water, and pesticides to produce the high yield. The second one could come with genetically engineered crops and their advances. But again, there's opposition to that as well. Of all the grain we make, most of it goes to feeding livestock. So if we ate lower on the trophic level, if instead of eating so much meat, we ate more what? Plants and grains, there'd be enough food for everybody. But a lot of you, including myself, you'll like a steak.
Yes.
I mean, you don't eat it all the time, but you still want to have a steak.
Oh, yeah.
I'm betting most of you focus, if you're eating plant proteins, I'm betting most of you eat from fish and chicken. Would that be accurate? Yeah. And you do that usually because your parents are concerned about health and heart disease and the fats that are associated, with steak or ground beef. Okay, so domestic livestock, most of the grain grown is used to feed domesticated animals. Livestock care is energy intensive. Growing up chickens, it's energy intensive. In MDCs, do you know what MDC stands for? More developed countries. In more developed countries, as well as contributing to pollution. These things create a lot of methane. What's methane? Gas, yeah. Plus all of their poo. And then their poo gets put into waterways.
Thank you.
Okay, and then fishing. Modern methods of fishing, again, we eat from the wild sources of fish instead of primarily from aquaculture. So that's something that needs to be increased. And the problem is when the numbers get decimated, then the fish can't get together for special hugs. Okay, because they don't find each other because the numbers are so low. You reach this tipping point and then it just spirals into a vortex of extinction. So modern fishing methods have decimated fisheries. Okay, so what was our first resource? Land, water, and food. Our next one is we need what? Energy. Okay? So we primarily get most of our energy from non-renewable energy sources. The very fact that it's defined as non-renewable means we're going to what of it? Run out of it. Okay, you are going to run out of it. So on your notes, fossil fuels is a source of 75% of the world's energy. Something that we're running out of. Okay, 75% of the world's energy. As they burn, there are environmental consequences. A little tip, there is no such thing as clean coal. Okay, that's like saying you have a white black crayon. Okay, you can't, it's coal. I would like you to take that clean coal and rub it on you and see what happens.
No thanks.
Okay, because even if you have traps to collect the pollutants from burning the coal, do you think you're going to collect all of them? No. Okay, now you have that pollutant in this trap. What are you going to do with this trap?
Clean it out.
Right. And it's going to eventually, you're either going to put it back into a trash where it's just going to pile up, right? Or you're going to use water to dissolve it, but eventually it's going to be back into the system. So there is no clean coal. A coal train rumbling across Montana is 1.5 miles long. How long does it take you to run a mile? Okay, so start at the front of the train and run for 1.5 miles. That's how long that train is. Okay, and yet it only carries barely a day's fuel for a large power plant. And the U.S. burns more than 1 billion tons of coal a year. Every time you burn that coal, you are creating what? Pollution. When you put pollutants into the air, what's something that can bring the pollutants back down? Rain. What is it going to be if it's got the pollutants mixed with it? Acid rain. Itsy bitsy spider, right? Okay. So down comes the rain and washes your body out. Okay. It's going to impact plants and animals and buildings, obviously, that acid rain, and forests and lakes. So then you go, okay, let's do nuclear. That too creates a waste. Do you want to park these back in the back of your house? No. Okay, where are you going to put them? There are whole studies done where they have stored nuclear waste, and it creates cancer clusters. You know what cancer clusters are? It's like an area where all the people and the children are getting cancer. I wonder why. It's a mystery. Okay? So, on your go to energy. It's also connected to global warming through production of greenhouse gases as well as pollution. And then we have nuclear power. People are concerned with meltdowns and radioactive waste. So what are our alternatives? Renewable energy sources, things like wind and solar energy. And then this guy, I thought he was kind of interesting. Okay, electrofuels. Charged microbes may poop out a gasoline alternative. So he is working right now. It's been the goal of the U.S. Department of Energy's electrofuels program, a $48 million research effort involving 14 separate projects that is wrapping up this year. And instead of relying on corn and sugarcane or other plants to collect the sun's energy, they're using microorganisms and hoping that their byproduct is what we can use. So these are important things to fund, right? Why? Because 75% of our energy is coming from what? Fossil fuels, which are non-renewable. Okay? There's nothing like when you see the toilet paper running low in your bathroom, do you wait until there's nothing on there and you're visiting and dropping your kids off at the pool, making a cornback rattler to look and go, oh my gosh, there's no toilet paper here, okay? You have probably all been in that situation. You need to anticipate the toilet paper roll is getting smaller. I better make sure I have more toilet paper, okay? Our energy sources are getting smaller. You need to anticipate that ahead of time. We need to start the development now in order to have these things available because we don't want to get to the point where we just run out. Yes?
If coal is like so bad for the environment, why is our president trying to like limit like all the jobs for coal?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a vote. It's, you know what it comes down to? It's politics. It's a vote. And what I'm going to look at, let's bring a coal miner from Kentucky in here right now. And he's got a family of 5. And I'm looking at him right now. Do I want him to be out of work? No. Is he trained to do anything else? No. What am I going to do for him? So when you're looking at somebody face to face who's a coal miner, you want to say, what can I do to help you? You don't experience it because probably none of you know a coal miner. So I bet that's why he's doing it. But what maybe he could do is stop flying every weekend and spending millions of dollars, right? And just take all of that money and give it to the damn coal miner, right? He has kids and 10 generations later can go to school, right? And learn a trade. So we need to be thoughtful about it and realize those are individuals that would be out of a job, but they're going to be out of a job. There's a lot of people that are going to be out of a job. Why? We have computers. Computers can work faster, make fewer mistakes. So that's going to happen. So we cannot solve those jobs from leaving. They are in fact going to leave because we're more efficient in the machines we make. So what are we going to do about it? We have to solve the problem. I can't just say, well, I'm going to keep them working more inefficiently, right? You want to do any of you just stick with an old phone forever and ever?
Yeah.
Some of you do because you have to buy it, right? But most of us Do you want an old black and white TV that's this big? No, you guys want the flat screen, ginormous thing, because that's better, okay? So, you know, we're still trying to keep little black and white TVs when we're burning coal. There's other things out there that are more efficient, right? Refrigerators are more efficient these days. Dishwashers are more efficient. Smart homes with the temperature. You can buy the products now so that your house is heated and cooled based on when you enter and leave it, right? Like we have a Nest. Does anybody have a Nest? So it knows when you're there. It's like creepy, right? And it's like, oh, I know she's gonna want it at 72 because she's unhappy at 74. Okay, so we better get that down. We just already know, and they know what time I get home and when to have that temperature. So those type of things are going to get more efficient. People are going to be out of work, so we need to solve the problem. All right, next. Possible solar hydrogen revolution. Solar energy would replace fossil fuels and hydrogen fuel instead of gasoline. Could solve many problems. Could solve many problems. Not it. Not it. Whoever is not it, pass or play, tell them 3 things you've learned. 3 things you've learned.
I learned that.
Yes.
I learned that a lot of the food processing we do in like
Wind. The word you're looking for is wind.
and like irrigation we do is also counterproductive. And pretty much everything we do is counterproductive, and that's what I've learned.
All right. Hopefully you told them 3 things you've learned. Let's review in our head. What are some resources we need? We need what? Land. We need water. We need food. We need energy. The next thing we need are minerals. Minerals come from the earth. You have to dig up the earth in order to get the minerals. In the process of digging up the earth, could we cause problems? Yes. Okay. So if you look here, they're digging. I'm not saying not to dig, but we need to think about how we're doing it. There's something called open cast mining. This would be like taking somebody and going, okay, there's something underneath your scalp that I need. So I'm going to scalp you, but don't worry, we'll get some reconstructive surgery going and some hair plugs, and I'll fix it afterwards. Is it ever going to be exactly the same? No. Okay? So you have these where you're basically just scratching off the Earth's surface and then removing what you need from it, and then you're saying, oh, I'll restore it. If you've ever seen somebody who's been badly burned, can you do plastic surgery and help them? Yes. Are they going to ever look exactly the same as they looked before? No. You've done too many things to damage them. And so open cast mining, and you've heard of fracking, right?
Yeah.
And it's like people are like, you know, like their water's catching on fire or whatever. It's like the gases are coming out in. So you have to think about that. But there are people who have jobs there. So you have to be willing to look at the person who has a job there and go, okay, well, how can I solve this problem? Because this is not working. Stripping surface layers from the Earth's crust to obtain coal, ores, or other valuable minerals. Dragline excavators strip away surface layers, and mechanical shovels distribute minerals and spoil. The minerals are carried away for grading and processing, and in some countries they make you fix that. I mean, there are parts of the United States where they have no drinking water. No drinking water. Cities. Because of, in the efforts to mine, they've destroyed the water, that their water sources. Okay, so we have to think through. We have to be problem solvers on that one. So minerals are used up quickly. The mining process threatens ecosystems and creates waste and pollution. The mining process threatens ecosystems and creates waste and pollution. Okay, so what were the resources again? Don't even look at your notes. You know them. It's what? Land, water, food, do it with me, energy, minerals, I'm just pointing to minerals, and then now in the process of getting all of those things, we make things like when we need water, a lot of times, and you see it, there's a whole row in your store of plastic bottles filled with water, right? Everybody in this room has access to water. So why do we need the plastic bottles filled with water? It's for what purpose?
Portable.
portable, it's convenient, right? But you could buy things to transport the water yourself, right? Okay. So when you think about our access to water, and again, I'm not judging you. It wasn't until probably, I want to say 2 years ago that I stopped buying water bottles. I bought it every time, got the case, stuck it on the bottom of the cart, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I always did that. It was just handy. But in order to have access to that water, your brain on LSD and acid. We'll have to watch that. Okay. In order to get that water, okay, first it starts with an oil rig, right? Oil well to get the oils to make this plastic bottle, a pipeline to move it, a chemical plant, then that makes these things called nurdles, which get carried on a cargo ship, which gets carried by a port and a wheeler, and then they have to make those bottles. And then you need a water source, you've got to get that. Then you have a bottling plant, another 18-wheeler, a big box store. Then you can have your water to go, and then you throw away the plastic bottle. That's a lot of destruction in order for you to have your convenient little bottle of water. Okay, so that production, you're making synthetic organic compounds, and those synthetic organic compounds can be very bad, and we'll talk more about that part in just a little bit. And then chlorofluorocarbons, like any kind, a lot like spray cans and things like that, that can destroy the ozone layer. And then radiation comes in, and that can cause what? What are those? Those are little graves. Death.
Oh my God.
All right. So synthetic organic compounds are detrimental effects on the health of living things, but they are involved in the production of plastics and pesticides and herbicides. CFCs are halogenated hydrocarbon. You don't have to memorize that word, but it just, so you know what that is, it's chlorine and fluorine atoms replace some of the hydrogen atoms in your hydrocarbon, and they're involved in ozone destruction. Ozone destruction. And also in the process of getting all of our resources, we create a lot of agricultural waste, endocrine disrupting contaminants from the chemicals that we're putting on the plants. We create a lot of sewage, and we create a lot of industrial waste. So wastes are generated during mining and manufacturing. And some are endocrine disrupting contaminants. Okay, somebody shared 3 things they learned. I need the other BioBuddy to share 2 new things that you have learned. Go ahead.
So,
I already shared what I
the mining and, the pulling, you know what I'm talking about. And there's a lot, like, there's which is pretty great.
Yes. Yes.
green.
Oh.
Thank you. I would have totally forgot.
I don't know why I'm here.
Little breaks in the day.
I don't understand why I find this so funny. What did you do?
This.
Okay, let's go, peeps. I think some of you might be logged in twice for some reason. No, you're just slow. Okay. See if your bio buddy needs assistance. Ask him, do you need assistance? Can I help you answer the questions?
I need
Nothing too hard yet, right? You doing okay? So most of you got that. Green Revolution crop varieties are high responders, but they take high amounts of water, high amounts of nutrients to get them to respond. Number 2, most of you got all of that. Check to see if your bio buddy was one of the 17 or not one of the 17. Say, bio buddy, let me see slide 2. Come alongside, see what they missed.
Why is it saying incorrect?
Don't throw them under the bus.
No, I
It says ABC, but it says incorrect. Yeah.
that's weird.
I don't know. All right. So now let's talk about biodiversity. So we know what we need. We've identified our resources. We've identified some of the impacts of us taking those resources. So now let's talk a little bit about biodiversity, the variety of life on Earth. So it's described as the number of species of the various groups of organisms. So you can see on impact of biodiversity, variety of life on Earth. And during Understanding 13 says, describe the major human contributions to the decrease in biodiversity of life. I'm going to give you 3 terms I want you to write next to that, and you can continue on in red. Okay, and I'll explain them. But these aren't the 3 terms. There are 4 ethical principles relating to biodiversity. The first one is making the assumption that you even want biodiversity. And I'll give you some arguments for that in just a little bit. And then you're making the assumptions that extinctions caused by humans are undesirable. You would have to buy into that principle. You may or may not. You might just go survival of the fittest, baby. And then you need to think, is there something I'm doing right now? Like, let's say your parents said, here's $1,000. That's the limit of what I'm going to give you for the next 3 years for spending money. Maybe that's a lot, you know? Are you going to go out tomorrow and buy a really cute little leather jacket that's $1,000? No, because you'll know I will have nothing in the future, right? So do we plan ahead? So are we saying it's okay? Can we have these extinctions? Or could this be undesirable to wipe out all these species because I might need them in the future? Complex ecosystems support biodiversity. The more complex, the more numbers you can support. And biodiversity from evolutionary change has value. These are the 4 principles. So let's talk about what is a threatened species. Blue, tell Slate, what is a threatened species?
A species is endangered.
I think she meant
They're in danger of being killed.
Okay, so remember I told you I wanted you to have 3 words that you're going to add on to the red right there. So you start off being threatened. That's the first thing, threatened. And then threatened can lead to this. Whose turn is it? Slate? Go, Slate. So stage 1, I'm threatened. Stage 2, I am endangered. Stage 3, I am what? Extinct. Threatened, then endangered, and then extinct. Those are the 3 words. So let's talk about what causes that. Okay? Go ahead, Slate. This is all you.
Services that will
So basically, ecosystems is better than like extinction or whatever, so we need to maintain it.
Now,
Extinction.
avert your eyes from your notes. Avert your eyes from your notes. Just look at your bio buddy deeply into their eyes. Tell them how much you love them. Tell them, come up with 3 things without looking at your notes. What do you think are the top 3 things that decrease biodiversity, that cause extinctions? Tell them.
Humans, and global warming. Humans. You know what? It's humans.
Okay, here's the list. How many things did you pick from the list?
None of them.
Now,
We just be humans.
listen to me. This adds up to more than 100. And that's because it could be a combination that causes an extinction, like pollution coupled with disease, or habitat loss coupled with exotic species. But this is saying if I take this organism right here, 85% of the time, something's becoming extinct because habitat loss was involved. Or 50% of the time, exotic species were involved in its extinction. So it could be more than one. So if we're saying biodiversity is important, and I haven't given you any arguments to tell you why biodiversity is important, that's next, okay? But assuming it's important, habitat loss is number one. Now, if you think about it, you're like, well, we need homes. So if I build my home there, another organism can't have their home there. So then the concern would be, maybe there are too many people. What is the number one way to decrease the number of people besides horrific things?
Oh.
Okay. AK-47. What is the number one? Education of women. Number one way to decrease. Number one way to decrease population size. Okay, is the education of women. So habitat loss is the number one cause of species extinction today. Blue, this is you. All right, so half of all species live in the rainforest, and that's the thing we're clear cutting. Okay, so we want to probably consider that. Coastal degradation. Now, that doesn't look too bad to me. I would love to have a little condo there. Did I have the condo talk with you? Okay, so let's, really, I didn't have this condo talk? So let's say one or two of you, okay, you stay lifelong friends, and you become multimillionaires. So you're in your 40s, you're multimillionaires, and you're like, you know what, we liked Miss Litton. She cared about us. Let's go in together and buy Miss Litton a beach condo, a beach house. Okay? And then you show up and you say, Miss Litton, hey, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm with my kids, oh my gosh. And you go, you know what, we got together and we decided we're going to give you this condo, or this, let's just get you a home, on the beach. Am I going to go, oh, that's so sweet, I'm going to tear it down and I'm going to make it a habitat corridor for some animals? No. Go, yes. And do happy Jesus cartwheels and go, I have a house on the beach, I have a house on the beach. I'm going to be like, yay, let's go there. Okay, is it near a golf course? Okay, and I will be thrilled. Okay, I am not going to tear down that beach condo you give me. That looks like fun living. There's some cool restaurants there, make nice beverages. I'm in. Okay. This is why we need to be concerned, have elect officials, okay, in our federal government who value biodiversity and say, okay, we know you want to live on the beach, Miss Linton, but we're going to set this land right here as a wildlife preserve. Okay, and we're going to make sure that we maintain this habitat right here because we understand the value of biodiversity. And we're going to make a corridor right here so migrating animals can get from this place to that place. Nobody can build here. If you go to Santa Barbara and you drive along the coast right there, right by East Beach, there's an estuary right there, right? Right next to the zoo. Nobody gets to build any homes there. Do you think they could get a lot of money if they filled that in and built homes? Yes. But we have somebody going, look, because I'm not going to give up my beach condo you just gave me. I want it. Okay? I'm not going to give it up. That's why you need some bigger entity going, this is important, let's set this land aside. This is where you need to vote for people who have the end game, the long down the road. Do you put somebody in office who is trying to get away with every single thing maybe the EPA puts out there? Or do you put somebody in there that goes, okay, wait, this is super important. We need to maintain this, right? These are the things you need to think about. And I'm not making, I promise you, any judgment call about people who are currently in office. Okay, I'm really not. But I want you to think about it because we all tend to be selfish, right? We tend to be selfish and want what we want, right? And we don't think down the long haul. When I look at the coal miner's face and his family, maybe that's my brother who's a coal miner. I'm voting with my brother on my heart, going, oh, I want him to keep having his job, so I'm going to vote for this person. But I need to think big picture, right? And a lot of people don't do that, but you do need to think big picture. Research these things, because eventually this is going to become a problem here. Okay, so on your habitat loss, involved in 85% of cases of extinction. Involved in 85% of the cases of extinction. Okay, and then we have rainforest has been reduced from its original 14% of the total land mass to less than 6%. Coastal degradation due to high human populations that live along the shore. Already 60% of the coral reefs have been destroyed, as well as mangrove forests and wetlands and estuaries. Okay? 85% of all extinctions have habitat loss as a part of it. 50% of all extinctions have alien species involved. What is that?
It's a snake.
What kind of snake? Do you know what it is?
Scary.
It's dangerous.
It's a python.
Python.
Okay. This is an issue. This is an issue in Florida. You knew I was going to do that. Pet pythons got released in Florida. Somebody's like, I don't want this pet anymore. Look, I'll just release it. Okay? You'd be surprised how often that happens. Pet pythons get released in Florida. They can grow up to 20 feet long and weigh up to 250 pounds. Not one of you in here weighs 250 pounds. But these pythons do. They can eat anything. Deer, bobcats. If you can eat a bobcat, you can eat a baby. Right? And endangered species. A decade ago, there were only a few pythons out there. Now there are over 100,000 pythons in Florida. It is open season on pythons. You can go there with a gun and shoot as many pythons as you want. Okay? And people do it. They are out of control. The lionfish and clownfish got out due to storms on the East Coast. They are decimating, that's an alien species, decimating the East Coast and the fish and the organisms that live there. Okay? So, alien species involved in 50%. Why? Normally there are barriers that prevent animals from getting to this place, to this place. The clownfish is not native to the United States. But it was brought here to be put in somebody's fish tank or aquarium. It now gets out. Is the python native to the United States? No. But where it evolved natural competitors and predators to take care of it. Now we've taken it out of its environment, put it in our environment, no natural predators. That's why it can grow. We, as humans, we break the natural barriers that are out there. See the fence? I had to look at lots of pictures of fences before I picked that one. Colonization. Pioneers brought things from one country to another. Okay? We don't have a lot of pioneers anymore bringing things, but it still can happen. This is more likely. Horticulture and agriculture. Horticulture is when you bring a plant in that you like, and maybe you have it in your home. Agriculture is the growing of a crop. For instance, nobody worries about the bonsai tree taking over the United States. But you know when you go over to the beach, you always see the guy selling the bonsai tree over on the side, right? Over the mountains. Yeah, they're expensive but super cute, and I will trim it and have peace. No. I will knock it over off a desk and it will make a mess and I will throw it away. I don't know, maybe I'd love it. Okay, but come back to me. The bonsai tree grows very slowly. You don't worry about that. But what if you plant bamboo in your backyard?
Oh, no.
Bamboo
That's a
grows
mistake.
crazy. You can almost watch bamboo grow. And if you're not trimming it, it can spread. What you're seeing right here is kudzu. This came from Japan with a noble purpose. Kudzu was brought in to prevent erosion, which we know is a problem. Habitat loss, soil loss. Let's bring in some kudzu so the soil isn't blown away. But the problem is it doesn't have a natural competitor. It outcompetes the local plants. And it grows so fast, They can't control it. In fact, it grew so fast over this home, the people were killed inside. No, I'm not serious. A plant can't grow that fast. Like,
They grow
what, Miss Sutton? Let's raise money for them. Yes.
Is it like bringing like a Japanese beetle to like the country?
And now, has there been problems since that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we bring in non-native species, this causes problems. And then the last one is accidental transport. I didn't mean to. It's on the hull of my ship. Or let's say you're going to go to the Caribbean and you're going to do some hiking when you're there, so you pack your hiking boots. You maybe put them in a plastic bag because you don't want to get your clothes dirty. I understand. Okay? And then you get there and you put your hiking boots on and they have a little bit of dirt from hiking around here. That's like a little inoculating needle. And you walk in the rainforest there, inoculating it with the bacteria and viruses and organisms from here, there. That would be an example of accidental transport. Yes?
Is that why I went to like a cave and I had to like disinfect my shoes? Is that why?
Exactly. Because cave communities, like cave communities like islands, that they're small little areas, and that disruption, because they're smaller, can be tremendous on disrupting the ecosystems there. Exactly right. Okay, so on your notes where you have exotic species involved in nearly 50% of the cases, alien species or exotics are introduced accidentally or deliberately into ecosystems. Natural ecosystems have evolved with their native organisms in balance. Exotic species may have no natural predator or outcompete native species, or become a predator of a threatened species.
Oh, wow.
May have no natural predator or outcompete native species or become a predator of threatened species. Barriers. Migration out of ecosystems is blocked by barriers. However, humans circumvent these barriers by various means. I gave you colonization, horticulture and agriculture, and accidental transport.
What does that mean?
When they get into our ecosystems, they can throw off that natural balance. We know there are food chains, but also there are food webs. And food webs are the better thing to look at, because we know one organism doesn't just normally directly impact just another organism. It's anything in relationship to that. And let's look at another example of an exotic species brought in with a noble purpose, like the kudzu. In Montana, in the lakes, there is salmon. Who feeds on the salmon? We could feed on the salmon, but eagles feed on the salmon, and the grizzly bear feeds on the salmon. So in the attempt to raise the population, increase the number of salmon, they brought in this thing called an opossum shrimp, because salmon are known to eat opossum shrimp. So they're trying to increase the opossum shrimps numbers so that the salmon have more food. But another thing the salmon eat are zooplankton. The opossum shrimp love zooplankton. Love zooplankton. So what ended up happening? Okay, opossum shrimp were introduced into Montana lakes as food for salmon. Instead, the shrimp competed with the salmon for the zooplankton as a food source. Then the salmon, the eagle, and the bear populations subsequently declined. So in the attempt to raise all of those populations, they ended up decimating those populations. And you can see on this graph right here, okay, if you look right here, the yellow color is the salmon, the yellow bar, the bald eagle is in blue, then the red is the opossum shrimp. So all of a sudden, he takes off in numbers, and what happens to both the salmon and the eagle that preys on it? Goes down. This is why you need wise people making decisions. People that understand the interconnectedness of food chains and food webs, and who do the research in all of those things.
Miss Linton for president 2020.
What?
Miss Linton for president 2020.
Yeah.
Against Kanye.
Against who? Kanye? Yeah, I'll go against Kanye. So, food webs. Alien species disrupt food webs. And then I gave you the example. Okay, and then islands are especially susceptible. Light-shirted one, talk about this slide right here. You got this.
On islands, organisms have and like disturbing the ecosystem.
All right, so let's talk about Hawaii. Who's been to Hawaii? Pretty, right? Have you been to Maui where the chickens are running like all over the place? Is it like the weirdest thing? And you're like, what's this chicken doing here?
Look at all this.
So here's the deal. Rat population on the rise in Hawaii. So like we got to get this rat population, you know, back in control.
Bring over cats.
So what they did is they got something that ate the rat. Something that eats the rat is the mongoose.
Oh.
Here's the deal.
Oh, nice.
The birds in Hawaii, and mongooses don't generally eat birds, okay? But the birds in Hawaii don't have a predator that would come in and eat them like that, a top predator. They put all their nests, the native birds, on the ground. So mongooses don't normally eat birds because normally birds put their nests in the trees. The birds in Hawaii haven't had to do that, so they have evolved to have their birds on their nests on the ground. The birds don't fall out. You know, cost-benefit analysis works out for them. Mongoose comes in, yeah, starts eating some rats, then gets a taste of a native bird. It's like chicken, right? You gonna eat a rat? You gonna eat this bird? Okay, birds are probably easier to catch because they're hanging out near their nests that are on the ground. Okay? And as a result, the native species of birds are getting decimated. In the noble attempt of getting rid of the rats, who are also non-native to the island, but were brought in by colonists, right, on their ships, things like that, they bring in the mongoose and end up decimating. So back, okay? So islands are especially susceptible to disruption by the introduction of exotics. Okay, so now come back to me. We have talked about the resources that we need, and you have those down. Tell me the resources right now. Land, water,
Food, energy, minerals.
Good. Then we've talked about things that decrease biodiversity. The first one was habitat loss. Okay. Second one is exotic species. What percentage of cases of extinction is habitat loss involved in it? 85%. Exotic species? 50%. Now about half of that, take it down about 24%, has to do with pollution. So let's talk about pollution. Okay? Pollution is involved in 24% and can lead to disease. Dark shirted one, tell them what pollution is. You did it before, do it again. It's right there.
Yeah.
All right. First one is acid rain. We've already, yes. Disruption. Acid rain we have already talked about. The word you're looking for in B is decomposers. Slate, you do acid deposition A. Blue, you do acid deposition B. Go. Do it now.
Automobile exhaust and sulfur dioxide on the power plants form acid rain combined with water vapor in the air. They form acid
Trees to be
All right. Number 2. We have already talked about this as well, because when we talked about our different cycles, one of the cycles we talked about was the phosphorus cycle. And we said the reservoir for phosphorus is in rock. Normal weathering takes it out. But if we're mining, that can increase it. If we're using fertilizers, it can get into bodies of water. Factory runoff, it can get into bodies of water and cause over-enrichment of the lake. Now all of a sudden you can have an algal bloom, which you would think, hey, good for the, good. Algae, they are what? Autotrophs or heterotrophs? Algae are plants. Autotrophs or heterotrophs? Autotrophs. I know you know that. Autotrophs, do they do photosynthesis, cellular respiration, or both? Both. Okay? So when they're doing photosynthesis, they're generating a lot of oxygen, yeah? Good for the water. But now they don't have enough of that phosphorus to maintain their high numbers, so they all what? Die. Who works on them? Decomposers. Decomposers. Autotrophs, heterotrophs, or both? Heterotrophs. Decomposers are heterotrophs. What do decomposers require to stay alive? Nutrients, which they're getting from the dead plants, and oxygen, which they're taking out of the body of water. Right? So when you give an infusion of nutrients, you get an algal bloom, but then those are going to die. Decomposers are going to break them down. Decomposers suck all the oxygen out of the lake. This now causes death of the entire lake. Okay? That's the process of eutrophication. So on your notes, eutrophication, lakes are stressed by excess nutrients from sewage treatment and agricultural runoff. From sewage treatment and agricultural runoff. Algae grow in abundance and die off. The bacterial decomposers then use up all the oxygen, and then that kills the fish. The bacteria aren't killing the fish, okay? Because it says and kill the fish. It's just, I shouldn't have written it like that. The bacteria take the oxygen, and the oxygen being absent kills the fish. Okay? Let's look at another issue, ozone depletion. The word you're looking for in 3B is immune, and the second word is death. Slate, you take care of 3A. Blue, you take care of 3B. Go.
Ozone shields absorb most of the harmful UV radiation, preventing it from reaching Earth's
Results of shield breakdown, immune system, impaired crop and tree growth, and plankton life.
All right. So clearly, we want an ozone shield. Next thing. Okay, next pollutant are these organic chemicals we make, like water bottles. Okay? The problem is these synthesized chemicals that we make. Okay, never mind. These synthesized chemicals that we make, they're called nonylphenols. They're used in plastics, spermicides. I don't know that we're making so many spermicides, but okay. And cosmetics. And they mimic the effects of normal hormones. And salmon, for instance, when these get into our bodies of water, they lose their ability to osmoregulate. Because salmon start out in fresh water, then they go out in salt water for several years, and they come back to freshwater spawn. They lose their ability to change their osmoregulation so they can move from salt water back into fresh water. So these chemicals mimic hormones that they would have, and that becomes a problem. So on your organic chemicals, a wide variety of chemicals are produced and enter the environment. They mimic the effects of hormones. And then the last bit of pollution that we're going to talk about is global warming, which we've talked about many times. Under basics, 1, the word you're looking for is greenhouse. Under 2, the word you're looking for is rise. In B, results, the words you're looking for in number 2 is shift rapidly. Shift rapidly. Slate, you do global warming basics. Blue, you do global warming results. B, go. Talk about it.
Global warming. Global warming refers to an expected increase in the average temperatures of the 21st century due to greenhouse gases. Gas collected worldwide shows a rise in greenhouse gases, and the global climate appears to have risen since the Industrial Revolution.
Okay, and that's where we will pick up next time. I hope you have some good toast.